The CW's primetime lineup is filled to the brim with the superheroes of the DC Universe.
Now, one group of podcasters takes to the airwaves to sift through the exciting and dynamic world of the DC Universe.
Get ready to journey to the worlds of The Flash, SuperGirl,
Arrow, and DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
From the creators of the Hangin' With Web show,
it's the Just Us WatchTower. Here's your host,
Kevin J Kessler.
WatchTower is online.
Welcome, everyone, to the Just Us WatchTower here on the 31st of January in the year 2019. I'm your host, Kevin J. Kessler. We are bringing you guys a special look this week at episodes of SuperGirl, The Flash, and Arrow, along with some awesome news that we brought to us. But first, I'd like to introduce my cohort and sidekick here on the show, the one and only from the UWA Elite Professional Wrestling League over in New Jersey. Please welcome, once again, Mr. David Swan.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
I'm good, Swan. How are you doing? I'm ready to dive into the DC universe today.
I am very, very cold.
Yeah, I'd imagine you are.
Yes, it is freezing here in New Jersey.
That polar vortex, how's that treating you?
Not good.
They need to just start calling it. They need to just start calling it Killer Frost.
Yes, that would be. That would be. Although over the weekend, I got to see a very fantastic touring Broadway show.
Which one?
So, Percy Jackson.
Like as in Percy Jackson and the Olympians?
Yes.
That's a Broadway show now?
Yeah, it had like a 6-month off-Broadway run, and now it's touring, and it's in Philadelphia right now, and then it's moving to New York again in a couple weeks, and then it's all over the country.
Oh, very nice. So this week we're going to be doing things a little bit differently since there are only 3 episodes. First, I'm going to give you guys a spoiler warning like I normally do. This week we're talking about Supergirl, Season 4, Episode 11, Blood Memory. We're also talking about The Flash, Season 5, Episode 12, Memorabilia. And we will be talking about Arrow, Season 7, Episode 11, entitled Past Sins. So, before we do that, though, we are going to invite our friend Seijiya from the Hangin' With Web show on here. We always love having her with us, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the news this week, about that surrounds the DC Universe. Hey, Sage.
Awesome. Just love my news
intro. I didn't realize we were giving you the news music intro.
Yes, I must have news music. So, well, today, first up in the news, and thank you to Swan for helping me to find it, Batwoman has cast 3 new roles for the CW pilot, which, as I understand it, still does not have a premiere date, but that's okay.
Yeah, I believe it's still, they have to film the pilot, they have to submit it to see if it's going to get a full season order. Yes, well, filming is reportedly going to start in March in Vancouver. And hopefully that will still hold with this crazy Arctic winter that we're having. Right? The good old van.
Let's see. So Teen Wolf's Megan Tandy has been cast as Sophie Moore.
Okay.
So that's going to be really cool. We all remember her from Teen Wolf. She was the mercenary Braden there. Oh, you didn't watch Teen Wolf? Okay.
No.
We got sucked into that. But next up is the casting of Luke Cage's Cameron Johnson. And he is going to play the role of Luke Fox.
Yes, so Luke Fox is, as Swan pointed out to me, because he was like, Luke Fox, I was like, oh, son of Lucius Fox? And he reminded me, Luke Fox eventually becomes another Batman. He becomes like the robot Batman.
Batwing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So is it Batwing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Who else we got?
Yeah.
The third and final role is Yu's Nicole Kang, and she is going to be Kate Kane's stepsister, Mary Hamilton.
Oh, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's going to be a lot of fun.
So this is definitely shaping up. I'm very much looking forward to getting to explore the Bat side of the CW DC universe a little bit more.
Yes.
It's interesting that they went back to the Teen Wolf casting poll after they did so well with Superman.
Yeah, maybe they just think that like they make them sturdy stock over there for superheroes.
Well, Teen Wolf is like the CW show that wasn't on CW. So,
very true. Very, very true. It has all the makings of a CW show. Okay, so what else we got this week?
Okay, I have something quirky and fun. Even though I know Black Lightning is currently not in our lineup, I do have some fun news from the comic world about that. Out this week in comics was the Scooby-Doo team-up issue number 46, and the Scooby Gang teams up with Black Lightning.
Wow, so Black Lightning being the second most powerful character in that issue next to Shaggy.
Exactly. Zoinks!
Yeah, exactly. Using 0.01% of his power throughout the course of it. This is my new favorite meme. It's ridiculous. I don't understand where it came from, but I love that it exists. The Ultra Instinct Shaggy.
Oh.
Swan, have you? I feel like this is something you probably saw and were very confused by.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I've seen it floating around.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone is just obsessed with this like super powered Shaggy, and it's really entertaining to me. But okay, so Black Lightning meets. That seems like a really odd pairing.
It does, doesn't it?
Like you'd think it would be like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy meet the Justice League, or Superman, or even the Green Lantern, or like something crazy like that. But Black Lightning is a kind of a deep cut.
All depends on where the mystery machine is driving.
Mm-hmm. Swan?
Yeah, and I think that Scooby has teamed up with all the A-list DC characters at this point, so he's moving on down to the B-list.
Yeah, like back in the Super Friends era, he used to like team up with Batman and Robin occasionally.
Yes, yeah.
So, okay, we got anything else this week?
I do. I have something very interesting because I saw that the Flash's disappearance is going to be a major part of the Arrowverse's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover later on, and everybody's thinking, because in the original Crisis comics, Barry Allen dies. Mm-hmm. But everybody's kind of thinking that maybe Oliver Queen will sacrifice himself instead. And I thought that was interesting because in his Twitter post that Stephen Amell did just recently, he tweeted, I have unexpected vacation guests with my family because a bunch of drunk people are yelling Oliver Queen at me, and I'm going to head over and tell them that I'm only here because they have killed off my character.
That's interesting.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that interesting? So I don't know if he accidentally tweeted a possible upcoming spoiler or if he was just really irritated that he couldn't vacation, but everybody has been talking about the Crisis crossover.
It sounds to me like Stephen Amell was just a little bit irritated and decided to give them a fake spoiler to like ruin their day. But because even if that was going to happen, he couldn't actually say it. Otherwise, he'd be in a lot of trouble. Who does he think he is? Tom Holland? But in news, a lot of people do think that is the deal that that Oliver made with the Monitor during the Elseworlds crossover, was that he'll be trading his life for Barry and Kara. Because in the Infinite Crisis, Barry and Kara both die in the comic. Spoilers, by the way, for a 30-year-old comic book. Probably more than that, actually. But yeah.
I have my own theory as far as deaths on the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths.
What's your theory on that?
I think that Oliver and Clark are both going to die.
You think? I remember you telling me this, that you think Clark is done. I don't necessarily agree with you about Clark, but I mean, I think that if it happens, you will get that moment where you have Kara holding Clark instead of Clark holding Kara, which was that like iconic image from the first Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get that shot regardless, even if Clark or Kara don't die, they're going to do a fake out where like Clark is holding Kara's dead body or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
But so my question is, if Oliver dies and they cancel Arrow, we'll obviously know about this before it airs. There's no way to make it a surprise.
Right.
They're canceling Arrow. But do you think there's a possibility that Oliver Queen could die and that they would keep Arrow going?
I was just going to say that because they've gone to great lengths to introduce us to a new Green Arrow this season.
Yeah, but do you think that do you think that Arrow could survive without Stephen Amell?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Comic book fans are finicky. I feel like Arrow just kind of barely survives with Stephen Amell. So, I don't know. I think they definitely will try. I mean, come on, casting another major superhero as an ethnic woman, like Greg Berlanti is not going to be able to pass that up.
No, I mean, I think they would try, but I think that Stephen Amell is the linchpin that holds together the entire Arrowverse. I mean, we call it the Arrowverse.
Right. He is very much the Tony Stark of this universe.
Right. And I don't know. I mean, I think if they, we might be reading too much into this. Oliver might die and be back by the end of the crossover.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, Sage, you have one more piece of news for us?
I do. You guys touched on it very briefly last week, is that gorgeous picture of John Cryer as Lex Luthor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but the debut on Supergirl is March 17th, and according to the CW, he makes his first appearance in episode 415, which is Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And he reaches out from prison to enlist his sister, Lena, into one of his plans, because he intends to stop at nothing to get her on board. And then we will have John Cryer in the flesh, as it were, on our screen.
Yeah, so Swan, I know you were a really big fan of this teaser image.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a
you
big
think that
John Cryer fan.
When I first heard John Cryer, I was just like, what, Ducky? Like, I couldn't picture it, but that image did a lot to convince me.
Yeah. And, don't forget, John Cryer has lineage as a Luthor.
When was he a Luthor before?
He played Lenny Luthor in Superman 4.
Yes, in 1987,
didn't he? I don't know if Superman 4 is really where we want to draw comparisons from, but that is pretty cool.
No, and he'll be playing a very different character than that.
Before we take our first commercial break, I do want to touch on one other piece of DC news that's not related to the Arrowverse, is that Ben Affleck is officially no longer Batman in the DC movies. They are currently hunting for a new Bruce Wayne for a Batman movie called The Batman, which is set to be released in 2021. Now, Swan, this movie has been in development hell for quite a long time. Originally, it was going to be starred in, written by, and directed by Ben Affleck, written also by Ben Affleck and Jeff Johns. But when you take one of the best Batman actors of all time and the most prolific comic book writer of this generation writing a script and you throw it out, that can only be Warner Brothers.
Yeah. I feel bad for Ben Affleck. I feel that Ben Affleck is the same thing as Henry Cavill. Yes. I think that they were failed by the movies that they were in.
Let's be more accurate. They were failed by Zack Snyder.
Yes, yeah,
100% failed by Zack Snyder. Like he completely messed up that universe. But this is a subject that we're going to get into more in the Arrow off season when the show's off the air. We start focusing more on the greater DC universe. But for now, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to hear from our sponsors. Sage, thank you so much for bringing us the news this week.
Absolutely.
All right, and the Watchtower will be right back after this.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Every year, tens of millions of people flock to Florida for its sunny beaches and world-famous tourist attractions. Most never learn about the strange and unusual locations just off the beaten path. From the UFOs of Gulf Breeze to Robert the Haunted Doll in Key West. Learn about the myths, monsters, and legends from the dark side of the Sunshine State with author Mark Muncy and illustrator Carrie Schultz in their books Eerie, Florida and Freaky Florida from the History Press. Find them at EerieFlorida.com or wherever books are sold.
Devarius has lost everything. His parents murdered, his sister kidnapped, and the new village he called home destroyed. The Dragonia Empire is out of control, destroying anything and everything in their path, searching for the resistance. Devarius is left with no choice but to find the Resistance, join them, and hope he can help them defeat the Dragonia Empire once and for all to bring peace to the land of Keldroga. Dragonia, Rise of the Wyverns, Dragonia Empire Volume 1.
Joanne Fisher's The Spanish Doll. Secrets in Italy? Oh yes. Her beauty strikes him like a thunderbolt sent by the goddess Venus. When Fiore is given a peculiar gift, a Spanish doll, she is thrown into a whirlwind of entangled passion, money, secrets, and love. Get swept away today by Hangin' with Web Show featured author Joanne Fisher's The Spanish Doll. Available now on Amazon.com. And now, back to the Watchtower.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks to all our sponsors. Man, we got some great sponsors in Oklahoma, right, Dave?
That's right.
My Jim Ross impersonation with his podcast. But enough about Jim Ross. Who cares about him? Greatest announcer of all time, my butt. We are going to be talking about Supergirl first off, kicking it off like we like to, with Kara Zor-El, the last daughter of Krypton, at Supergirl Season 4, Episode 11, Blood Memory. So, again, we open and close this episode with our new favorite person, Red Sun Supergirl. Ooh.
Oh, my God.
Comrade Zor-El. We're calling her Red Sun Supergirl, for those of you that don't know, because it's very much what they seem to be taking this from a kind of an Elseworlds comic back in the day that was called Red Sun, and it was about what if Clark Kent, Kal-El had crash landed in the Soviet Union instead of Smallville, Kansas, and grew up as essentially a soldier of Russia. That appears to be what they're doing with Supergirl here as well. Now, I will say, Swan, that I understand with these superhero shows, you have to kind of like look past the pseudoscience a little bit sometimes just to get to the destination that we're going to. But this was the biggest stretch I've ever seen. That defibrillating Red Sun Supergirl causes a bolt to arc across the Earth to National City and make and strike a bunch of pills and turn them into rage monster creation. Like, I was almost insulted by how stupid this was.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Sun Supergirl is... I don't even know. I'm assuming we're going to get somewhere eventually with this, right? I'm hoping.
That's what we were talking about last week. Is this going to be a one-off episode, or is this going to be
a
big
it
bad?
better not be.
God, could you imagine? Is this going to be like a later in the season thing, or is this building the big bad for next season? And as you said last week as well, I feel like we're kind of past the point where people are fighting doppelgangers of themselves.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I assumed at the end of this episode, when they were talking about needing somebody from America, I think they might have been hinting at Lex.
Maybe.
So I think that, Red Sun Supergirl might tie in with Lex's arrival.
That could be a thing. She could become, because Lex is colluding with the Russians.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that.
Oh my God.
I did not even think about that until you just said that.
That just hit me like a defibrillation lightning bolt that arced across the planet from Russia.
Oh, man.
Oh, if there's any way to get me less excited about Lex Luthor, it's that make him colluding with the Russians. I think at this point they need to just make a character called Ronald Grump and just have him be...
Oh.
Because it's like on every show, it's like, how can we make a Trump stereotype? Like they tried last year with that dude who was essentially Donald Trump, who they eventually got rid of. Nathan Petrelli from Heroes.
Yeah.
So Alex not knowing much about Kara anymore. So it seems like her favorite movie and stuff like that are these. I guess these are things that tie into her being Supergirl because Alex has now forgotten everything about it.
I mean, they said that she, removing. I don't know. Actually, the more I'm saying it out loud, the less sense it's making to me.
Yeah, agreed.
Because she didn't find out that Supergirl didn't exist until the show started.
No, but she always knew that Kara had powers.
Yes.
So, I mean, you're taking a large chunk of, like, those agents, it was just kind of like, oh, they know that Supergirl is Kara Danvers, and that's, like, just one little thing that they know. Like, for Alex, you had to remove, like, a lot of her childhood, like, and rewrite a lot of it, too. It's kind of like I'm really sorry for making the reference, it's kind of like in Frozen, when they take the memory of Elsa having ice powers away from Anna.
Okay.
Leave the fun, but take away the magic.
Right.
So John had to essentially rewrite Alex's memories. Whereas for the others, it's just he's removing a piece of information. Unless he just wiped it out and just didn't go, it wasn't very thorough, and that's why her mind is kind of screwed up now. Which would be really negligent on John Jones's part.
Yeah, which doesn't seem to fit his character.
My thing, though, was if Alex... Remember when the DEO was a secret government organization? Like, if Kara was never Supergirl, then Alex should still be pretending that she's in the FBI to her.
Mm-hmm.
Because for all she knows, Kara is a civilian. And before Kara became Supergirl, she thought Alex worked for the FBI.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
hey,
so...
What do you...
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, what do you think of this storyline with the whole Alex thing? I know we talked about it last week.
I'm already
in action.
I'm already sick and tired of it, and it's been one episode, but I also don't want them to get rid of it super fast, because then what did we do this for?
Yeah.
The watching her become like soldier bitch Alex was not fun either. No. I don't think Alex would be that bitchy to Supergirl, even if she doesn't know it's her sister. It just kind of flied in the face of her entire, like, even if you don't know it's your sister, it's still someone you've fought side by side with now for 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. Even though she doesn't know Kara is Supergirl, that doesn't erase everything that Supergirl has done with her. And,
Absolutely.
Supergirl has saved her life and saved everybody's life on multiple occasions.
She saved the entire planet, so, like, my immediate thought to that is not to be super frosty to her.
Yes, I agree.
Now, I will say right away, with the exception of Brainy speaking "dude, bro," which was delightful. I hated the Alex portion of this story this week. It felt throwaway. The second the defibrillator lightning happened, I was just like, oh, writing this right off. So, with that being said, I'd like to focus more heavily on what I did like, which was the Kara Nia Nal road trip.
Okay.
So, first, I feel like I need to apologize to Greg Berlanti, because I know he's listening, because he cleared up the trans issue that I was having with Nia Nal, where they made it seem like she was a cis female from the alien race, even though she had said she was trans. But they explained that in a really great way. I learned an important lesson about patience and not jumping to conclusions. I really like what they did with this, and I really like how they made her sister like kind of a turpy bitch at the end. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot, and I think that they sent a very strong message about being trans, which is, if you didn't see the episode, basically Nia's race, only one daughter can get the superpowers, the dream powers that are passed on.
Inherited from the mother.
Yes. And the fact that she received the powers even though she was born male, I think that does a lot to really validate, the trans community, at least on this show, that, you could be born with different parts than what you are on the inside.
Right.
And clearly she was born a female on the inside, and as a result she received her dream powers. It's
also interesting that Nia is half human.
Yes. Yeah.
because her mother is married to an alien. But yes, I agree that was a wonderful, beautiful message. And I also really liked how they kind of showed, they showed what a lot of trans women face in the world, wherein like it's not just like gun-toting, flannel-wearing Southern racists and homophobes and transphobes that are the people that are kind of oppressing them. It was her own sister, who by all accounts loves her, but is saying you're not a real woman. Like, and that's called when women say that to other women, to trans women, that's called being a TERF, TERF. The term is trans exclusive radical feminist, wherein you are a feminist and you believe in all things feminism, which is great, but you exclude trans women from your activism, which is, I'm really glad they're touching on it because it's a big important problem. J.K. Rowling is a TERF, which fight me on that, people, because there's proof. But it was a good message, and I really liked getting to know Nia better, and seeing her get her superhero costume at the end, or at least seeing what it's going to look like. I was really glad at the end, like when they're in the car, and she's just like, "You wouldn't understand. Like, I have superpowers, and my sister doesn't." I was like, Kara better tell her right now, because there's literally no better time to tell her, and she did, and I was very happy to see that Nia is now in the inner circle.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying.
I also really liked that Nia's mother's death wasn't like the Children of Liberty killed her or something like that. It was a spider bite. She got bitten by a Black Widow spider, and that was that.
That town was weird. It was kind of weirding me out a little. I was confused with where they were going, because I got like a Children of the Corn vibe, where even though they were saying how tolerant and everything they are, like I felt like the shoe was going to drop on the other side, because it just felt weird to me to introduce like this like perfect utopia here on Earth, especially like after we've been dealing so much this season with, bigotry and racism and everything like that.
Right, and then the weak-ass villains came in and essentially, I agree with you. It was a little, like, kind of Children of the Corn in a sense. I don't know if that was intentional or if that's kind of just how it came off.
Well, I don't think we're done with that. I don't think we're done with that.
You think we're going back to this town a bunch?
Maybe not a bunch, but I think that we're going to see it again.
Okay.
They did an awful lot of world building with this town for it to be just one episode.
The last point that I want to make before we take a break is Lex Luthor's incoming arrival is going to spell the end of this Jimmy Olsen Lena Luthor relationship, which I can't wait for that to be over.
Same here.
I love Lena Luthor. I don't love this Jimmy Olsen. But the second she starts cohorting with Lex, that's going to be it. I got really upset when Jimmy killed that girl's story, though, because now it's like they're both now violating their own moral ethics for each other, and I feel like it's a toxic relationship that needs to end. And I hope that's what you're going to point out. So I gave this episode a 7 out of 10, purely based on the Nia Null stuff and not at all based on the Alex stuff. Swan, what'd you give it?
I'm going a little bit higher for something we talk about. Combination of the Nia stuff, but also we got a guest star in Brennan Rayhos. He played one of the drug dealers, and also the Red Dino Charge Power Ranger.
Oh, was he?
Yes, so I got to see a Power Ranger play a drug dealer, and I got all the cool stuff with Nia, so I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay, all right, well done. All right, so folks, we're going to take a quick break here for more of our sponsors, and we'll be back with more of the Watchtower after this.
From some of today's best-selling, award-winning authors comes 22 page-turning tales, Cursed Lands.
Cursed Lands will lead you through one doomed world after another in a haunting dystopian urban fantasy.
Join the courageous as they battle for survival across worlds where fae, vampires, angels, witches, and more roam freely.
Cursed Lands is coming soon on Apple Books, Kobo, and Nook.
Pre-order your copy for just 99 cents today.
This is Cosplay Michael with the Hanging Us Up Show. I want to want to tell you about my friends at Embellis Effects in Orlando, Florida. They've got makeup, costumes, and props for all of your costume needs. And the team at Embellis Effects is helpful and friendly. Embellis Effects is one of my favorite places, and I know it will be yours too. I'll see you there. Or go to embelliseffects.com. And remember, cosplay is for everyone.
Now on Amazon.com. War Calls, Love Cries, a Civil War novel by Mark Berry. Isaac Wells is an innocent farm boy living in upstate New York. His dreams are shattered by a treacherous brother and the onset of a devastating civil war. War Calls and Love Cries is a fast-moving historical narrative. It is an emotional roller coaster ride and a riveting must-read book that you will think about and talk about for a long time to come. War Calls, Love Cries is the kind of book you will cherish for a lifetime. On Amazon.com today.
Murder by the Gods from author William G. Collins is available today. Murder by the Gods is a mystery thriller set in the glorious past of ancient Egypt, when the son of the Scorpion King suddenly collapses after receiving a mysterious threat from the god Seth. The prince is convinced it is the gods who are trying to kill his family. Murder by the Gods is filled with adventure and romance in a kingdom that would become known as the Land of the Pharaohs. Murder by the Gods from author William G. Collins is available on Amazon.com today.
You're listening to the Just Us WatchTower on Krypton Radio.
Welcome back to the Watchtower, ladies and gentlemen. We are now going to be talking about The Flash, Season 5, Episode 12, entitled Memorabilia. This, with the 2 weeks ago being The Flash and the Furious Swan, this should have just been called Flashception.
Yeah.
Because it was basically an Inception style episode, which, that's... I felt like I've never seen Inception, but I got what they were doing, and I didn't hate this episode at all. The first thing I would like to talk about is again, I kind of feel like a broken record here. Iris West Allen is a terrible human being. Hey, so you know the guy, the nice old man that has the office across from mine? Yeah, he's dead. Dead as a doornail. Oh my God, that's great! She is delighted that a man died, because now she gets her own office. Delighted, Dave Swan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what Joe West did wrong.
Yeah.
Because both his daughter and his granddaughter are horrible people.
Right. Maybe it's Barry, because Barry enables it. Barry's never like, hey, hon, you're being kind of crappy. You're not being a great person right now. Like, maybe you don't be like that. He's always just like, every time Iris is like, am I crappy? He's like, no, you're perfect. You're perfect. You're my perfect Snooki Bear, and you never do anything wrong, and I love you, love you, love you, love you, love you, perfect. And yeah, that's kind of the definition of their relationship. Like, I poisoned our daughter and took away her powers in the future. I'm sure you had great reason for it, because you're perfect and you never do anything wrong, baby. I can't stand the pedestal that Barry puts her on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think eventually it's going to have to come toppling down.
But I don't know if they're ever going to address it. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's really a glimmer. I think that's just the way they write these characters. I don't think that it's like a plan or something like that. Like, listen, the one thing I hate the most in these shows is when a character develops some kind of substance abuse problem. But you know what? I'm ready for drug addicted Iris if it gets her out of our hair for a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you what though, as much as and I don't dislike Iris as much as you do.
Yeah, I don't dislike Nora as much as you do. My stage is
reserved for another West Allen, but I would much rather deal with this than the Oliver Felicity on again, off again, fighting, bickering, type relationship.
I mean, I get that too, even though they kind of seem like they're straying away from that in the show now over on air. But we'll get to that. The apparently, so what we learned from I thought the ice skating scene was adorable, and I love that Nora has apparently inherited Barry's coordination when not in super speed mode. Now that we've got the Bat universe, they really love playing with the references, don't they? With the Jervis Tetch reference. Jervis Tetch being a major Batman, well, not major, a B-list Batman villain called the Mad Hatter. The memory machine. Obviously, these shows are just like we need a cold, like it's like Power Rangers where they used to be like, Billy, we need a machine that can control the weather. I'll whip that right up, Zordon. You have to kind of look past the pseudoscience, like I said before. This was nowhere near as egregious as the defibrillator of doom, but apparently, if you turn a defibrillator on high enough, you create superpowers. I loved that Sherlock's sidekick was named Watsoon.
Yes.
And so let's talk real quick about Cisco not wanting to be Vibe anymore. Like, do you feel like that's a natural character progression, or do you feel like it kind of came out of nowhere?
Actually, kind of both.
I'm with you on this.
Because it did kind of come out of nowhere, but it does, if you went through everything that Cisco's gone through, it does kind of lend itself to a natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they could have, built it up a little bit more getting there.
Mm-hmm. And I like that it was like Cisco had a few moments where he didn't have his powers anymore and realized how much he missed just being Cisco and not being Vibe. Like, to me, that's real. I feel that. It resonates with me. And I support this Cisco arc, where I have not supported every Cisco arc in the past. I notoriously hated the my douchebag brother who I hated is now dead, so I hate you now, Barry. I didn't like that, but this I do enjoy this. I especially liked that they found that band Cicada.
Yes,
I thought that was funny and a nice touch. So Nora, kind of a horrible human being. Where they're like, we're going to say, yeah, like she's like, they're like, we're going to save this little girl. She's like, okay, but I'm keeping secrets from everybody because I'm a terrible person. So I'm going to potentially sabotage your ability to help this 8-year-old by trying to cover up my own secrets.
Yeah, I mean, her actions in this were so unexcusable. And here's the thing, like, this is one of those times where I feel like the secret just doesn't justify all this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if she just tells Barry, listen, the person that sent me back here, was Dawn.
Uh-huh.
You get pissy about it for like an hour, and then everybody's going to be able to move on with their lives.
You are talking about a man who literally believes his wife and child do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Like, if she says this, he will go insane in his own head trying to justify why Eobard Thawne, the murderer of his mother, is probably not that bad of a person.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old cliche about lying, but, at this point, if it's actively starting to screw with missions and actively possibly causing people their lives, you're better off just putting it out there at this point.
Yeah.
Like, the thought process in this episode was mind.
Well, it also really bugged me when Barry and Iris went into Nora's memories. And Nora finds out, and she's like, wait, they're in my memory. Like, she completely ignored the fact they might be in danger, and she was just mad that they were, like, in her memories and might find out her secrets.
Right.
And like you said, it's not...
right now with this whole Eobard Thawne thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I liked seeing the Flash Museum. I thought that was cool.
Yes, I loved how it looked like a Six Flags gift shop.
Yes.
Complete with a whole bunch of real-world Flash merchandise.
Yeah, I noticed that like the real action figures and stuff like that were in there.
Yep.
You know what? It's kind of weird that I felt like the first Iris Nora scene was more in character for Iris, and the second one I felt was a stretch.
Mind tell me what they were again?
The first scene is when she's just like, "You're never coming back here again," and like breaks the toy. And the second one was like, oh, sweetie, you must have been so scared. Like, I believe the first one. I'm sorry. And
based on what we've been told about how Iris is in the future, then yeah, that made a lot more sense.
Also,
now I guess we're finding out that Iris isn't actually like that in the future.
You know what? One other little nugget that I picked out was that Nora, as a kid, did not know Barry was the Flash. She's like, she goes to the Flash Museum because she's like, you said Dad was the Flash's biggest fan, I thought being here would make me feel closer to Dad. And I was like, wait, she doesn't know her father was the Flash?
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
How much I bet Thawne tells her?
I can understand not telling her when she's that young.
I bet you Thawne is the one that told her. And, like, Thawne probably also told her about the chip that Iris had installed in her, and that's why she trusts Thawne more than Iris. Which, by the way, I feel like it is the most perfect revenge on the part of Thawne to get Nora West Allen to think of him as a father figure.
Yes. Yeah.
That's perfect revenge, because that's going to hurt Barry worse than anything else.
Yeah.
I
think at some point we're going to find out how Eobard Thorne is still alive and in prison in the future.
Oh yeah, we're totally going to figure that out. We'll find that. They'll do some kind of... We're going to get an entire Nora flashback episode soon, I guarantee it. Like, there will be an entire episode that's nothing but Nora, because you know how shows like to do that lately.
Yeah.
Again, Barry was so desperate after he saw that like really crappy Iris Nora interaction. He was like super desperate to be like, you know, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Like, I even wrote in my notes, he is so desperate to believe that his wife is not a terrible person. I really liked the spin of Grace being the villain of the episode.
Yeah, and Girl Cicada was kind of a cool looking character.
I liked it a lot. I like that, like, instead of her being like the tether to Cicada's humanity, she's kind of the fuel to his rage.
Yeah.
And like, she's been listening the whole time. She knows it. Also, Nora saw the nurse like colluding with Cicada and just didn't bring it up or question it at all or tell the team about it.
Yeah.
Like, true. The nurse is kind of the linchpin of this whole thing.
Yes.
All I can say is I'm really loving that Sherlock is slowly but surely closing in on her. And going about it so much better, because as I said to you on the phone earlier, Swan, he doesn't like voice these suspicions about her anymore because he knows that Mama Grizzly will rip his face off if he tries to. But he's slowly gathering information.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing there was the, what avatar did she use to fight off, like, the invader? They were like, the Reverse Flash costume.
He's like, interesting.
Interesting.
You know what? We're going to give our final thoughts on this episode when we come back from break. We'll be right back. We're going to hear from our sponsors, then we'll be back for more conversation on this Flash episode right after this.
From the imagination of author Kevin J. Kessler, the Rosinante dragons are no more. They have fallen into the obscurity of lore. Now warrior Valentine Beret and Seraphina, a magically gifted princess, are on a mission to save the world of Terra. Together they must face the Rosinante legacy and combat the greatest threat their world has ever known. In the end, who is stronger, the man or the dragon? Find out in Kevin J. Kessler's The Rosinante series on Amazon.com today.
Best-selling and award-winning author of true crime and crime fiction, Yvonne Mason is back with a brand new book, The Pink Canary, a book that delves into the life of a drag queen and a marvelous whodunit. You can find this and all of Yvonne's other works on Amazon.com, or find Yvonne Mason on Facebook and Twitter.
He's gonna kill me.
Buy your copy of Pink Canary now.
The Right of Wands. One boy, one right. And a world of deadly secrets that could change the course of history forever. It's time for The Right of Wands by Mackenzie Floor. When a horrible fate reveals itself during the Right of Wands ceremony, Myrda must find a way to change his destiny. Forbidden from revealing the future, he is granted a wand and magical powers in order to save himself and those he loves. But Myrda is not the only one with secrets. The Rite of Wands by Mackenzie Floor, available on Amazon.com now.
And now, back in the Watchtower, it's your host, Kevin J. Kessler.
Welcome back to the Watchtower, everybody. Swan, I just noticed during the break while I was scrolling through social media a little bit, officially announced, as if we didn't see this already coming, SuperGirl has been renewed for Season 5.
Great. That's the first one that's been announced that we know of?
That's the first one I've seen. But I'm sure they're all... so if Arrow is getting canceled, we're going to find out. So the last thing I wanted to bring up about The Flash really quickly before we move on is the two things they said. So Cicada goes away and then comes back in the future and starts killing again. I have a feeling Cicada is going to time travel this season.
Yes, that would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, something I was dreading from the get-go. It seems like we're already delving into.
Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of the cliffhanger it ended on, with Barry saying he wanted to use the cure on Cicada, and we're already starting to move into the whole like pros and cons. Like Cisco hasn't even finished making the cure yet,
right? And the thing that Caitlin was concerned about is already happening.
Yes.
Also, it looks to me like we had that thing with the newspaper, with the Central City Citizen changing its date to 2019 from 2021, which means that it looks like time has shifted, which means that's their way of making the crisis happen earlier, I think.
Yes.
So that it doesn't have to wait. They don't have to wait till 2024 to do the crisis.
Right. Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And so we're getting that next season. So I gave this episode of The Flash a 7.5 out of 10.
I'm going to go a little lower. I'm going to go with a 6.5.
Okay.
Just because it was Nora heavy.
Yeah.
I really don't like her.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on to Arrow. Season 7, episode 11, entitled Past Sins. The two things I took away from this, the theme of this season is kind of Robert Queen was a horrible human being.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not allowed to say Suicide Squad on TV.
Yeah.
And Greg Berlanti, in his usual way, comes up with ways to shoot on Warner Brothers while following their edicts. Like when he threw some kind of fit about having to kill Amanda Waller on TV. He did the whole thing about not being able to call Felicity Oracle.
Right.
And Warner Brothers is just a terrible, terrible studio, and they feel that you can't mix as opposed to hey, let's make a really cool Suicide Squad on TV so that people will get reinvigorated into the franchise and want to see the movie more, to you can't have a Suicide Squad on TV and in a movie.
Yeah, unless it suits them.
Right.
Having a Flash on a TV show and a movie is perfectly fine.
Well, we don't have a Flash in the movie yet.
No, well, I mean, he was in Justice League, and we're all ships ahoy towards the movie that will, possibly never happen.
Exactly. Another thing about this this season is we have no big bad yet. We're more than halfway through the season.
Right. Besides Diaz and kind of the ghost of Robert Queen. Not his physical ghost. I know that's something that could actually happen in this.
I was just about to say, don't count your chickens before they hatch on that one.
Yeah.
Because this show is not above doing Cyborg Robert Queen as the... You know what? I wouldn't be shocked, because there is quite a bit of Robert Queen conversation happening this season, more so than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, it's... I guess it kind of makes sense to go down that path if they're, going to try to introduce and push Imiko Queen.
Yeah.
As hard as they are. But
the not Suicide Squad, what do they call it? The Ghost Protocol?
Yeah, Ghost Protocol.
I'm going to call it the Suicide Squad because that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So I need you to explain something to me.
Sure.
All right, so we go through all this, and Mr. Terrific, Curtis, comes up with a way to get what they need without activating Ghost Protocol. But then Diggle is still hell-bent on activating, the Suicide Squad. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why.
Because reasons. Well, they don't have this guy yet. That's the thing. I mean, because they're really building this guy up like he's some kind of big deal. So I'm assuming they still want to use the Suicide Squad to take him down. However, I think Diggle's just kind of like, well, we might need them. Diggle's taken a very cold kind of stance where, Diggle was once the moral high ground of the show, where I feel like now that's Curtis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I miss Ragman. Oh, I miss Ragman so much.
I do.
He was good. I liked him a lot. So the new Suicide Squad, we have Cupid, who I love. You've got China White, who I still love, despite the fact that they overuse her. And you have Slade Jr. And of course Ricardo Pacino.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Terrific, I thought I killed you. Yeah. Oh my God. So Earth 2 Laurel, not a drunk. Hey.
No. Yeah.
So much for old Rummy Lance. We don't have to deal with that anymore. That was during the time where I was referring to Laurel as I was calling her L4 for Laurel Lana Lang Lance.
Oh, okay.
Because her character was horrific, but they managed to course correct that and then kill her. I really like Black Siren.
Yeah, I have no problem with her.
And to be honest, I kind of like this little burgeoning friendship that she has with Felicity. It's actually making me care about Felicity a little bit more.
Yeah, it's much better than having her as yet another frenemy.
Yes, and and I like that they're kind of going into moral gray areas with Felicity. Like she used Laurel's stolen DNA to track her.
Mm-hmm.
And Felicity is starting to skate that line a lot more lately. And I think that's really going to build toward her as the calculator.
Mm-hmm.
Though I'm really hoping that yes, Felicity does go bad in the future, and it's not a big swerve.
Yeah.
Oh, she was good the whole time. No, show that she could fall.
The problem is that if they're not winding down, if the show's not winding down, which we already speculated that it might be, is that knowing what happens with these characters in the future kind of removes any sense of drama. Because they're not all that they all live. Yeah, Felicity can't die if she's going to become the calculator in the year 2025 or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I could see that, unless they do a whole thing where the future gets changed, which might be where they're going with it. Because you got to figure that the future and past are going to have to interact. There's also a very real possibility that this future storyline is not ending this season.
Yeah, that's possible.
This all might be a lead. They might be playing a long game for next season.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? I really like Oliver working with the police. I didn't think I'd like it, and I actually really kind of dig it.
I'm not a big fan. Yeah,
no, I feel like it's given the show an injection of something fresh. It's not the whole vigilante crap anymore. And thank God we got rid of Quentin. I don't know. I think it's something new, and I'm really liking it. I'm liking him actually having SWAT team task forces and stuff at his beck and call. I like him working inside the law. It's a fresh take from all of the other heroes of this universe.
Is it bad, by the way, that last week when I was watching Arrow, I couldn't remember for the life of me how Quentin died?
I'm trying to remember for the life of me how Quentin died. Diaz killed him, right?
I think so. Maybe.
I'm pretty sure Diaz killed him.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I mean, honestly, it was not very memorable.
No. Especially now.
Because Quentin Lance should have died by the 3rd season.
Yes.
Like, he stayed on well past the point where he was useful. Like, once he became a drunk again and then became the chief of staff, like, he was useful as, like, the Commissioner Gordon type character that Oliver eventually won over.
Mm.
Oh, I wonder if they're going to have Commissioner Gordon in Batwoman. Or kind of have to.
Mr. Gordon's daughter.
You mean Batgirl?
Yes, I do mean Batgirl.
Okay.
But I could see them taking, like, a Lego movie approach where, like, where Barbara Gordon is, like, the chief of police.
I will only accept that if they cast Rosario Dawson as Barbara Gordon.
Well, she has nothing else to do superhero TV-wise right now, so...
This is very true. This is very, very true.
But I mentioned this to you on previous weeks, but 2 things about Arrow that are driving me nuts.
Okay.
One is the just complete attention deficit disorder that they have, which, again, this week, nothing with the future flash forwards.
Right.
It on them again. And we didn't touch on anything really with the Imiko Queen after dedicating all of last week to her.
Yeah.
We got, like, maybe 2 or 3 minutes of follow-up this week.
Yeah, yep, very, very true. I mean, this week was more about Oliver trying to prove to her that, like, yes, I understand Dad was an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think was an important thing to get to, but I don't know if we needed a whole episode without her to get there.
Yeah, I feel like she needed to be in this more. But you know, that character's just been, like the future thing, that character just disappears for episodes at a time.
Right. The last thing I want to bring up before we end the show is my least favorite trope in a superhero show, thanks to Smallville, is the female character has a stalker storyline.
Okay.
Which, like, they kind of disguised this episode as Laurel has a stalker.
Mm-hmm.
Or they disguised it as something else, but at the heart of it, it was Laurel has a stalker, which was Oliver at the end goes, Laurel has a stalker? And all I could think of was Lana has a stalker from Smallville. Which, as you know, they did about 15 times. And, yeah.
When all else fails, do a stalker episode.
Exactly. So I gave this episode an 8 out of 10, actually, because I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed this episode, too. I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Okay.
At some point, somebody needs to address William, though. And
he's off at boarding school.
I know that, but there's no reason why he's off at boarding school.
And they've completely forgotten that he exists.
Yeah, I'd be pissed off, too, if I was adult William.
Yeah. Oliver hasn't mentioned him since he got out of jail.
No.
Which is funny, because when he was in jail, it was all he talked about.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, on that note, we're going to have to end. We're out of time this week. Folks, please check out Dave Swan and the UWA Elite. If you are a fan of professional wrestling, they got some of the best production value out there outside of the WWE. So check them out over on YouTube. You can find their YouTube page. Also check out UWAElite.com, where you can find a link to join the UWA Elite Network for $6.99 a month. For me, follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Kevin J Kessler, on Facebook, facebook.com/Kevin J Kessler author, or Instagram at WhiteDragonPN to find out what I've been up to. Got some new books coming out in the future, plus the Ross and Annie series. Most of the books in the series are currently 99 cents, so please give it a whirl. Check it out. Thank you especially to our friends over at the Hangwood Web Show for all their amazing work in production, and to Seiji for putting the news together this week. Folks, that does it for the Watchtower this week. For Dave Swan, I'm Kevin Kessler. We will see you next week. Watchtower offline.